Preparing for the next big one, the statewide drill that had folks diving under their desks.
Now, scripts changed. It was 15 people when I came, including the president, including the director and the gardener. It's now more than 1,500, isn't it? That's very different.
He helped shape our understanding of the world, a legendary researcher at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography celebrates his 100th birthday.
Oh my God, I'm not yellow! I'm not yellow!
Watching them all fly away, the special lesson about monarch butterflies for North County kids. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. People are rallying behind a San Diego woman facing deportation. Supporters say plans to deport the mother of three is unjust and cruel. Today, Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez-Fletcher joined Sylvia Ocampo's supporters downtown outside the federal building. Fletcher named a 2016 bill to help immigrants convicted of nonviolent offenses Sylvia's Law after learning of Ocampo's situation. Friends say Ocampo was charged with perjury related to an attempt to get a driver's license before the state law allowing undocumented immigrants to get licenses was in effect.
She has gone above and beyond. I mean, to contact her legislator to say, what can we do, to come up and testify in Sacramento, to push for a bill that was signed so that she could change the law in order that she could pursue her citizenship. That's a lot more than an average citizen does to obviously get their citizenship.
Friends say Ocampo, who has lived in the U.S. for 24 years, was told she could stay in the country if she checked in. But at a recent check-in, immigration authorities took her into custody. It's unclear who will care for her children, including an 8-year-old with special needs. San Diego City Councilman Chris Cate has admitted he leaked a confidential memo to the proponents of the Soccer City initiative, which seeks to redevelop the former Charger Stadium. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says a criminal investigation of the leak is now in the hands of the state attorney general.
Wednesday evening, the district attorney's office put out a statement confirming for the first time that it had been asked to investigate the leak of the Soccer City memo. But interim district attorney Summer Stephan decided to refer the case up to the state attorney general. The statement didn't give much of an explanation, saying only that the office has no regard for politics or political parties and that it wanted to ensure the impartiality of the case. Summer Stephan is a Republican. She was appointed interim DA in June after her former boss, Bonnie Dumanis, resigned. Stephan is hoping to be elected DA next year, and she has the same campaign consultant as Councilman Chris Cate, who's also on the ballot next year. There's another update in the story of how Chris Cate leaked the memo in the first place. Through a public records request, KPBS obtained the email sent by Chris Cate to Soccer City consultant Craig Benedetto. Cate's office redacted the email addresses of the two men, quote, for the protection of private information. Cate's official city email address later appears unredacted. That suggests Cate leaked the confidential memo from his personal email account. David Snyder of the nonprofit First Amendment Coalition says that's not illegal, but it is problematic.
It makes it more difficult for the city to collect and then produce records that are requested by the public. They can't get into private email accounts of city employees, if those email accounts reside on Google's servers.
A spokesman for Cate offered no explanation for why the councilman apparently leaked the memo from his personal email account. Cate says he gave out the memo to get feedback on the Soccer City proposal. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
The San Diego City Council has canceled plans for a meeting Monday about short-term home rentals made popular through sites like Airbnb. The cancellation comes after the city's attorney's office flagged a number of legal issues with proposals for regulating the rentals. The council has been struggling for years to deal with the issue. Supporters say it's a vital part of the local economy, but opponents say short-term rentals have disrupted quiet neighborhoods. Members of the San Diego City Council are urging the public to put forward a 2018 ballot initiative to change how school board members are elected. KPBS education reporter Megan Burks has more.
A recent grand jury report recommends the San Diego Unified School Board operate more like City Council. Trustees would be elected by their neighborhoods instead of in at-large elections. They'd also face term limits and have more colleagues on the board. After hearing the report, multiple council members urged citizens to present a ballot initiative to their Rules Committee making the changes. We spoke with trustee Richard Barrera earlier this week at the State of the District address. He's served on the board for about a decade.
I think we need to move beyond partisan politics, which I think is what's driving this right now, and really have a broader community conversation about this.
The grand jury report came after Republicans on the City Council called for new school board election rules in March. Since then, Democrats have said they'd support term limits. The council is seeking legal advice on what action it can take. Meanwhile, Democratic Assemblywoman Shirley Weber has said she'll seek the changes through state channels if locals don't act. Megan Burks, KPBS News.
The San Ysidro School District is one of the poorest in San Diego County, yet KPBS media partner iNewsSource found the district's former superintendent was paid at least $1 million for 26 months of work. iNewsSource reporter Leonardo Castaneda has the details.
It's been a turbulent couple of months for the San Ysidro School District, starting September 1st with the resignation of Superintendent Julio Fonseca. He worked at the district for a little more than 2 years, but records obtained by iNewsSource show he received benefits and a severance payment that averaged out to make him the highest paid superintendent in San Diego County and the second highest paid in the state. Excluding his pension, Fonseca's compensation averaged out to about $493,000 annually. That's more than the $346,000 that Cindy Martin made in 2016 to head the San Diego Unified School District, the second largest district in California. The founding's outraged school board member Rodolfo Linares. He says the board was misled about some of the little-known perks Fonseca was given for life insurance and health care.
I think he abused his power. He took the board as fools. I'm not going to be silent. Community needs to know. We are board members. We were elected to protect the district and the students.
Linares wants the district to investigate Fonseca's compensation and to rescind the $376,000 he was paid when he resigned. His generous pay also is part of a recall effort launched last week to try to remove 2 school board members from office, President Rosalia Palacigue and Antonio Martinez. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource reporter Leonardo Castaneda.
iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit media partner of KPBS. A new report reveals arts and culture is a billion-dollar industry in San Diego. KPBS North County reporter Alison St John attended an arts summit focused on strengthening nonprofit arts organizations.
The study, part of national research by Americans for the Arts, shows nonprofit arts and culture organizations in San Diego add $1.1 billion a year to the local economy and generate more than 35,000 jobs. The survey was rolled out during an arts summit this week at the Escondido Center for the Arts, where attendees were treated to an unexpected dance performance. Of the $1 billion contributed to the economy, a little more than half comes from the money nonprofit organizations pay to artists and performers. The other half is what people spend when they attend an arts event. Those surveyed spent an average of $45 for every event they attended on top of what they spent for the ticket. The San Diego Tourism Authority pointed out about a third of the people who attend arts events are from out of town, and a vibrant arts community is key to San Diego's tourism industry, which contributes millions to city coffers in TOT taxes. The North County Arts Network is pretty new. It formed 2 years ago and is dedicated to strengthening the arts in North County as well as the whole San Diego region. The City of San Diego Arts and Culture Commission sponsored the study. From the KPBS North County Bureau, I'm Alison St. John.
Social media feeds are being flooded by personal stories of sexual harassment. State lawmakers are also speaking up. They joined the Me Too campaign with a letter this week. They want to highlight experiences they've had inside the Capitol.
2 weeks after I got elected, I had a senior lobbyist grab my butt. And after I yelled at him and I went to go tell a senator what had happened to me, the senator told me to be quiet and not to say anything because that lobbyist had a lot of power.
This action comes in the wake of widespread allegations of sexual harassment by Hollywood mogul Harvey Weinstein. Millions of Californians reacted to an earthquake today. That didn't actually happen. It was the 10th annual Great California Shakeout, where residents practiced the drop, cover, and hold on drill. It's what officials say you should do when the big one hits. Get down so you don't fall and get out of the path of falling objects. The American Red Cross also says having an emergency plan in place before disaster strikes is key.
We really need to be prepared for all kinds of emergencies. Today was the great shakeout. This weekend we're going to have Santa Ana conditions again. So here in our community, it's hugely important to be prepared every day, particularly during fire season.
Officials say being prepared includes having supplies to sustain you for at least 72 hours, including a first aid kit, medications, food, and a gallon of water a day for each person in your household. And they say, don't forget your pets. And Encinitas Butterfly Farm hosted a group of school children today. The goal is to raise awareness about the threatened monarch butterfly. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson has the story.
A quick flutter of orange, black, and white drew plenty of attention from the Capri Elementary School students.
That's a good one.
The kids were hosted by the nonprofit Butterfly Farms, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Resource Conservation District.
Oh, a yellow!
Monarchs and other butterflies filled the long cage. Inside were plenty of plants sporting colorful flowers and also different kinds of milkweed. Monarchs eat and lay their eggs on milkweed.
We're going to take the soil and fill around it, okay?
You guys should plant more milkweed so then more moms would come and then they would lay more butterflies.
The butterfly Nico Schweikert found so interesting raised concern for 8-year-old Alan Oliveira. He'd never seen butterflies up close before.
And then it flew, but it couldn't fly completely because its wing was broken. It was like losing a rib piece. It was ripped.
But not all the butterflies were injured. Cash Merriman tagged a handful of them and explained to his curious onlookers why.
We're going to follow this butterfly everywhere it goes, pretty much. We're going to know where it's going. Yeah, Sparkles, our friend here. We're going to know it's flying, what it's doing, if it's resting, if it's flying.
Tagging will help local officials learn more about local monarch populations, which are struggling because of lack of habitat. Tom Merriman is the director of Butterfly Farms. He says the experience is invaluable for the kids.
A lot of these kids, don't have backyards. They live in higher density housing, so they don't get to see what we have here so often. They're ecstatic. I mean, there's nothing. It's a fun place to be.
Let's release. Go. Butterflies, go.
Merriman says he hopes by making the connection to nature, he helps open the door to future conservation efforts. In Encinitas, Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Office workers, tourists, and passers-by were treated to a performance in the downtown community concourse today by San Diego opera singers who are appearing in the Pirates of the Penzance. It's the first of this season's free lunchtime concert series. The next outdoor lunchtime concerts are scheduled for March. Well, things will heat up in San Diego, and as Santa Ana winds will also be whipping up. Aaron Calandra has more in tonight's forecast.
Well, it's cooler now than it was a couple days ago, but it's going to get a lot warmer. We're going to be looking at some record-challenging temperatures by the beginning of next week. For today, we do see a couple of clouds around the area, maybe just tiny little showers in places, but for the most part, it is staying dry. We do have a cold front to the north of us. It is pushing to the south, and with that, we are going to see a couple changes. 67 degrees for tonight, spotty drizzle late, and also into the morning hours could be expected. Taking a look across the region, Oceanside 60 degrees, Ramona 58, Poway 64, and Alpine 58 degrees tonight. Borrego Springs coming in at 63 degrees. Here is that cold front I was just talking about. By Friday, it's going to be right on our heels. It's not actually going to push through San Diego, so we're not going to see a cool down. We could see some spotty drizzle, and our temperatures are actually going to be on the rise, as I said. So Oceanside for tomorrow, 73 degrees, Poway 71, San Diego coming in at 73 degrees. That is exactly average for this time of year. Ramona 67 and Borrego Springs 81 degrees. Over the next couple of days, look at what happens to the temperatures. By Monday and Tuesday, record challenging. Those records were set back in the 1960s. We could be breaking those with our highs in the low to even mid-90s. Inland, it's going to be warm. Look at Monday and Tuesday. We're talking 103 degrees, can be dangerous, so make sure you're staying hydrated. Check on your elderly neighbors, and in the mountains, well, not nearly as hot, very comfortable conditions. By Sunday, we're in the 70s. By Tuesday, we do reach 86, which is definitely above average. And in the deserts, well, it's hot, but not as hot as it's going to be in the inland. Look at that, Monday and Tuesday in the upper 90s to low 100s. So for one time, it's actually going to be warmer closer to the coast than in the deserts. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra.
As part of our special coverage, Living with Wildfires, we're sharing stories from the 2007 fires in San Diego. Assemblyman Brian Mainshine was a San Diego City Council member at the time. He says he quickly assembled a one-stop shop at the Rancho Bernardo Community Center for those affected by the fires.
It was really emotional. I mean, it was really emotional. You know, people that I had grown up with, like you said, I was a city council member representing them, and to see just the emotion of them having lost their home and all their possessions day after day, coming in that one-stop shop. And I set my table up right in the front, so when they came in, I could help kind of guide them. And just that emotion day in and day out, you know, really affected me, not just professionally, obviously, but really just personally. I, you know, became very close with so many of the families and the individuals that went through that, and it's something that stuck with me. You know, here we are 10 years later, and in some sense I remember it like it was yesterday.
The majority of the land burned by the biggest 2007 wildfires were in the unincorporated area, represented by San Diego County Supervisor Diane Jacob. KPBS North County reporter Alison St John talked to Supervisor Jacob about fire prevention efforts.
So Supervisor Jacob, thanks so much for being with us.
It's my pleasure.
So back in 2007, I remember that San Diego County was the only large county in California that did not have its own county fire authority. That was kind of disbanded in the 70s to save money, I think. And since then, the county has been working to try to get a more coordinated fire response and protection force. How much progress have we made, would you say?
A lot. It was 2008 that the County Fire Authority was actually started, even though the county had started investing money very slowly after the Cedar Fire up until 2008. But 2007 was a greater impetus. So what we have under the San Diego County Fire Authority now is over 1 million acres, and that's of backcountry land. Many of those acres were underserved or not served at all by a fire agency. We had volunteer departments and a real hodgepodge of entities and a disparity in service levels.
Now, SDG&E was found to be responsible for several of the fires back in 2007. Do you feel like SDG&E has done enough to make their facilities, their lines safer?
No, not at all. I mean, the Cedar Fire in 2003 should have been a wake-up call for SDG&E to harden their infrastructure. That is, to change out those wood poles to steel poles. And by the way, as we speak. They're still doing it. They still haven't completed the job. But to separate those wires, it was the arcing of the wires that the wind caused to come together that started those fires back in '07. They have not done that.
And what do you make of the CPUC's delays in making a decision on whether SDG&E should reimburse people for their role in the fire?
I'm concerned. I mean, I'm deeply concerned about the potential decision that the PUC will be making on this. People should not be paying the cost of those fires, period. SDG&E caused the fires. The company should pay, take it out their big, hefty, ballooning executive salaries out of their profits the company is making, and the company is doing quite well.
And last question, do you have sleepless nights worrying about whether we have got enough protection for wildfire?
Well, we'll never prevent another big fire. Never. And we would never, no matter how much money we spend, have enough resources to stop another major firestorm. It's just the nature of the area we live in. It's a high-risk fire environment. And where we have those factors with Santa Ana winds, we have a lot of vegetation, and we have the dryness in there, that sets up those unique conditions for a major firestorm. So all we can do is our best at this point. As a government agency, and also, as landowners, we need to do our part too, because preparedness starts with us.
Supervisor Jacob, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We have more stories of how people live with wildfires in San Diego on our website, kpbs.org. Renowned researcher Walter Monka turned a lifetime worth of questions into a spectacular career at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography. He turns 100 today. He sat down with KPBS reporter Eric Anderson last week to reflect about his birthday and the long journey that brought him the world.
I have lots of shortcomings. One is I'm not very good with equipment, and the reason I've been successful is I've worked with very good people as partners. Frank Snodgrass, Peter Wooster, others. I'm good at one thing. I'm good at asking questions at the right time. Say, this is really a problem that ought to be worked on now. Okay, that doesn't make me a giant.
What do you think Scripps would be like, the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, if you had not been here?
There have been some wonderful people that I worked with. I loved working with Harold Sverdrup, who was so good to me. And I worked all my life with Roger Abel, whom I admired tremendously, and he also was my close personal friend. And I just think I've been ever so lucky. Now, Scripps changed. It was 15 people when I came, including the president, including the director and the gardener. It's now more than 1,500, isn't it? That's very different.
Let's move forward a few years to the 50s. You're in the Pacific Ocean, interested in research on tsunamis, if I understand it correctly. And you witnessed something that few people have ever seen.
You mean Eniwetok?
Yes.
In 1951.
Right.
I still remember vividly having the mushroom cloud form over me, very much alone in the Pacific in a 4x4-foot raft, and I will never forget that.
You've spent a lot of your professional career supporting or advancing the various missions here at Scripps.
Yes.
And along the way, you've set a lot of people on paths to advance research that you have begun.
I've had a significant number of letters of people just this month, saying that something I'd suggested that they do in their work was a major factor in their career. And that's my birthday present.
You spend your mornings still working today,
Yes.
right? What are you working on?
And the afternoons if I don't have to answer questions like now.
What are you What are you working on?
Now, I hope I can explain that if there were no waves on the water, you'd have a single image of the sun. Suppose you have waves, you get a glitter point here, which reflected the sun into your camera. And you can calculate what the slopes were, because you know where it is. And so by photographing, you can get the probability of slopes on the sea surface from those pictures. And we worked on that for 2 months out of Maui and published a paper on the probability distribution of wave slopes. And it had two things we discovered that was totally a puzzle to us. One is that the waves, you would expect waves only in the direction and opposite to the wind, very little coming from the side. Well, the ones coming crosswind were almost as steep and as big as the ones up-downwind. And we still don't understand that.
So you're still trying to work that out.
And I've been trying to work that out intermittently since that time, which is over 50 years ago. And I said, before I kick the bucket, I'd like to solve that problem. I've been working like mad to try, and I think I have a solution. But I'm not there yet. And that's what I'm working on.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.